Welcome to Unity. So great to see you all. I'm Reverend Marla Mason. It's a blessing and a privilege to welcome you into the love vibration that we call Unity of Bellevue. We know that we are a divine emanation of spirit, and we welcome you into that energy and into that awareness. Here at Unity, we are all about waking up. We are here about awakening to the truth of our spiritual being and supporting others on that spiritual path. In fact, we are all about advancing that spiritual awakening throughout the Puget Sound region and even around the world. One of the biggest blessings of being in this COVID-19 environment and offering our services online is, we have folks here from Germany and from Amsterdam and from Nigeria and from California and from Oregon. And, we just weren't doing that on Sunday mornings when we were meeting in our building. And so I'm so grateful to recognize and acknowledge the opportunity we've been given as we shift in our awareness of what's possible in spiritual community. Most of you are probably aware that here in the United States, anyway, it is our 4th of July celebration, Independence Day celebration. And this weekend, as I've contemplated this awareness of freedom, the awareness of independence that we call forth once a year on July 4th. I've been thinking a lot about the meaning of freedom and what is the spiritual meaning of freedom? What is the purpose that we need to, that we are invited to lift ourselves into more fully as we think about this thing called freedom. And I am reminded, and you have all heard me say this before, I'm reminded of the words of the master teacher, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. And so as Reverend Marcia Sutton taught us, freedom is the proof of truth. If indeed we are in an experience of freedom, we are in an experience of truth. I am aware, however, of a little phrase leading up to that quote from the teacher Jesus, that we often don't include, and that is, he says, when you abide in my word. When you abide in my word, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. And when we talk about abiding somewhere, we're talking about living somewhere. We're talking about living in a consciousness of the word of love, which is, in my opinion, the main teaching of Jesus. And so when we abide in the word of love, when we abide in the vibration of love and the essence of love and the power of love, we know truth, and that truth sets us free. And so as truth students, that's really what we are here at Unity. We are students of truth. We are seeking truth. And so this morning, what I invite you to do is to be open-minded and be open-hearted, anchored in love, as you say yes to a powerful message of love, of inclusion, and of truth here this morning. So our guest speaker today, who's going to anchor us in a greater message of love and of truth, is Reverend Dr. David Alexander, and I am thrilled to welcome him to our community. He is really a powerful guy. When I was trying to, I don't know if you even remember this, David, when I was considering where I wanted to go to ministerial school, I tracked him down because I knew he had taken a somewhat non-traditional path, and I visited him on a Sunday morning in the church he was working in at the time. And I'm sure he had 8 million other things on his mind because he was the youth director and there were a lot of kids everywhere. And you gave me your time and your attention in a really precious way. And I will never forget that. I'm always so grateful for those who recognize those who are coming up and support them. So thank you for that. I want to tell all of you in a more official capacity, a more official biography of Dr. David. He is currently the spiritual director at the Spiritual Living Center in Atlanta, Georgia. That's only about a year. Up until then, he was down in the greater Portland area at the New Thought Center for Spiritual Living, which was one of the reasons I was able to drive down there and just visit him all those years ago as he was living in Portland. He's been a religious science practitioner since 1999. He is a Centers for Spiritual Living minister. He co-founded that New Thought Center for Spiritual Living and served as its senior minister for 15 years before moving to Atlanta last year. One of the things I love about Dr. David is he is an advocate for social justice, and he is an advocate for social justice from a place of spiritual awareness and spiritual activism. So I'm really grateful to welcome that consciousness into our community this morning. He served as the director of the Strategic Alliances for Centers for Spiritual Living, which directs and coordinates partnerships between organizations to foster the creation of a world that works for everyone. He is an avid student of the New Thought History and Philosophy and writes the monthly column Philosophy in Action. So what is the practical application of the principles we teach in the world? He has been inducted into the Martin Luther King Jr. Board of Preachers at Morehouse College. And the College of Bishops and Affirming Faith Leaders for the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries. And he received the Force for Good Award from Unity of Sacramento. So he's currently living in the Atlanta area in Lawrenceville, Georgia with his wife Patience, 2 sons, their dog Cooper. And it's always important to mention the animals. So welcome. I'm so grateful to have you in our community this morning and your message of love and of inclusion. I also want to welcome our guest artist this morning, Daniel Nahmod. We know Daniel Nahmod's music, you guys. Even if you don't know that you know Daniel Nahmod's music, you've sung his music many, many times in our community. Songs like One Power, my favorite opening song, My Soul is Welcome Here. These are Daniel Nahmod songs. He's enriched our community for many, many years, and he has enriched the greater New Thought community, and indeed is doing his bit to make the world a better place through the power of his music. He lives in Southern California. He's joining us actually from the Asilomar grounds this morning, which is pretty exciting to me. That's a place where I've experienced some spiritual awakening for sure. So welcome, Daniel, and I think you have an opening song for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, greetings from beautiful forested spot here on the Pacific coast. I had to choose between whether to show you all a tree or the ocean, and for the moment I chose the tree, but it's a pretty beautiful place. Here we go. A relatively new song. Nice to be here this morning. Well, virtually here. Lately I've been thinking about what motivates me to give a couple dollars to a stranger on the street, to hold the door, carry groceries, help a neighbor in need. When history repeats itself in headlines every day, solutions never big enough for problems that we face. As a man, as a dad, what difference can I make? 'Cause I know better than to think I'll be remembered for a favor or a quarter or a smile. Oh, but maybe before I return to sender, I can do one thing worthwhile. So I'm gonna try to raise a kind child. Sure would help if our boy went and got an MBA and took care of his artist mom and dad in their old age. But let's face it, Wall Street probably isn't in his DNA. But when his first grade teacher said she wanted us to know, it's Jude who always comforts any kid who sits alone. There's just so much pride my heart can take. My retirement can wait. 'Cause I know better than to think I'll be remembered for a fortune or a pension or a prize. Oh, but maybe before I return to sender, I'll have done one thing worthwhile. So I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to raise a kind child. I don't want him to think the world is his to save. It's too much pressure anyway, it can't be done. I don't want him to think he has to be a saint, 'cause the truth is saints don't have any fun. Mostly I just hope, my boy, you'll come to understand. No 401k or GPA can make a happy man. It's having roots, doing good, helping out where you can. So put down roots, do some good, take somebody's hand. And you'll know better than most what really matters, what makes living this life worthwhile. And there may come a day your own kids will remember how their granddad used to say with a smile that he raised. We raised a kind child.
And so, in this atmosphere of love, this atmosphere of kindness, we simply say yes to a greater and richer awareness of the infinity of the universe, the universal presence, the very heartbeat of God. It is the heartbeat of the universe. It is our heartbeat now. We are fully unified with the name and the nature and the beingness of this thing that we call God. And we breathe in. We breathe out, effortlessly recognizing and knowing infinite love powers our very being. And so we simply allow this love to animate our being right now. We surrender to it. We allow ourselves to be channels for it as we say yes to this sacred and holy time together this morning. As we say yes to the power of spiritual community to lift and transform us. The power of love to flow effortlessly as us. And so I give thanks for all who have been called here today, and I give thanks for the divine unfolding of this time together, knowing God is good and all is well. And so it is. Amen. All right. Our affirmation this morning. I'm going to read it through once, and I invite you to just be a receptive container for these words of power. And then I will invite you to read it with me a second time. Here we go. I accept and bless every part of me, every moment of my life and my being. And I rise boldly into the awareness of my oneness with everyone and everything. Connected and complete, I say yes to a world that works for everyone. And so it is. So take a breath with me and allow these words of truth to permeate your conscious awareness. And I invite you to declare these words with me with conviction. I accept and bless every part of me, every moment of my life and my being. And I rise boldly into the awareness of my oneness with everyone and everything. Connected and complete, I say yes to a world that works for everyone. And so it is.
We've all heard this kind of story. Somebody's diagnosed, but their time is suddenly short. And in the back of our minds, we wonder, what if that news was mine? Would we do more of the same with the moments that remain? Would we live like we were dying? Why wait? Why wait for that fateful fall, for that wake-up call? Why wait until it's too late? There is only today. There's one power, invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and just speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angel's wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. We speak so many languages, different clothing, different colors, different names. Different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. We'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, or Jesus or Lord. Call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, or heaven's door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sign. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth, or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. It's the power of the love in you and me. We've all heard this kind of story. An earthquake strikes the coast of a distant land. It seems like every time we come together as humankind, we make a different choice. Kindness cuts through all the noise, and we're suddenly united. Why wait? Why wait for that pouring rain, for that hurricane? Why wait until it's too late? There is only today. Why wait? It's the moment of creation. It's an everlasting peace. It's the freedom of forgiveness. It's the sweetness of release. It's the joy of inspiration. It's the sunshine on your face. It's the birthright of all nations. It's the boundlessness of space. It's the beauty of a baby. The serenity of sleep. It's the anger we abandon, for it's love that's most deep. It's one power. Oh, what we are is one. It's the power of the love that lives forever in you and me. It's the power of the love in you and me.
Thank you, Daniel Nemad. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow, I've been transported somewhere from that. Good morning, Unity of Bellevue. I hope you all can see and hear me clearly. My name is David Alexander, and I'm delighted to be with you this morning. I want you to know that I, in my personal ministry, am committed to the radical liberation of humanity through a universal spiritual awakening that calls upon our moral imagination and personal responsibility. I always share that when I'm a guest somewhere so that you know right up front what I'm about and what I'm up to in the world. I'll say it again. I'm committed to the radical liberation of humanity through a universal spiritual awakening that calls upon our moral imagination and personal responsibility. It's an honor to be here today and to be with you, especially to be sharing the space with my beloved friend, Daniel Nemad, the great lyricist and troubadour of peace in our movement, whose music and whose presence played an integral role in the founding of my ministry in Lake Oswego in Portland, Oregon, over 15 years ago through our mutual friend, Dr. Harry Morgan Moses. And of course, to be with my beloved sister, Reverend Marla. I adore her gracious heart, her commitment to truth, and her constant leaning into spirit for learning, for guidance, and for direction. Unity of Bellevue, you have chosen well, and I know you know that, but it's important that you hear it from other voices every once in a while. So let me be one of those voices today. And thank you, Reverend Marla, for bringing me back to the Pacific Northwest. It's such a joy. I left 1 year ago, July 1st. I took a one-way first-class Delta flight to Atlanta, and this is my first, even if it is virtual, foot back into the great Pacific Northwest. I love Atlanta. I love my life and everything that I am up for and conducting. But of course, I know that you all know there in Bellevue that the Pacific Northwest is a spectacular and beautiful place. So it's great to be with you this morning. Today, I want to share with you a message. Truth or Dare is the title. I just learned the title as I logged on to your website this morning after conducting my service. But Truth or Dare is the title, and Rising Strong is the theme for the month. Rising Strong, the great book by Brene Brown, the great work. And I won't get too much into the articulation of the principles in the book. I'll leave that to the capable hands of Reverend Marla, but I do want to touch on the theme today as a jumping off point for you, if I may, and bring in that this notion of truth or dare. I wonder if you will allow me for a moment to really voice what I feel is happening in America right now. Truth or Dare is a great title for today because I believe we are in a game of truth or dare. You remember the game, don't you? You had to choose to tell the truth or dare to do something seemingly audacious and outrageous and perhaps even embarrassing. But every once in a while, the game would take a little twist as your friends would play with the rules a little bit, or at least mine did anyway. And I think in this moment of the history of the United States of America, we have been dared to examine the truth of our collective experience as a country and to finally face the tragic history that repeats itself relentlessly against our prostrations of independence and freedom that saturate our consciousness at this time each year, the 4th of July holiday weekend. And if you're willing, I would invite you to get uncomfortable with me during this message. It was a great joy to watch your pre-service slides and get a sense of the community through the wonderful photos, and even on Zoom to see all of your videos and people settling into your couches and with your pets and your loved ones. It was a wonderful way to feel and get a sense of your community. I love that. But I want to ask if you're willing to be just a little bit uncomfortable for a while. And I promise you that whatever undoing that I create through this message with you this morning, that Reverend Marla will be able to put you back together again in due time. She's more than capable, I know. But I want to suggest to you that our capacity to rise strong is dependent completely upon our willingness to sit with what is heavy in our hearts and to sit with it long enough to let it teach us what it has come to do. Let me say that again. I want to suggest that our capacity to rise strong is completely dependent upon our willingness to sit in what is heavy in our hearts long enough to let it teach us what it came here to do. And so I'd like to create that moment for us and presence that for us. This is a Sunday in which very often we churches often get somewhat patriotic, which sometimes I find a little bit troubling, the style in which it is done. And so I'm going to play with that for just a little bit. We're going to get patriotic here for just a moment, but in a way that presents or is an invitation to presence what collectively is heavy on our hearts as a nation. Give me just a moment as I play with my screen here. I'm going to play for you just very quickly, just 2.5 minutes, the Star Spangled Banner, but done in the minor keys. And if you're a musician, as certainly Daniel Nahmad will know the impact of what that would create. And then overlaid with some imagery of what we are currently experiencing as a nation. So I just invite you to take this in for a moment.
Repeatedly told the officers that he could not breathe after an officer knelt on his neck. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the
I don't know what that does for you, but it does something haunting to me as the father of two Black children, one by choice as my wife's first child. And oh gosh, let me hang on a second. All right, here we go. As a father of two young Black children, one as a choice as my wife's firstborn, and then our son together, we are at a critical moment in our collective history, I believe. And it's a moment in which we get to examine what it really means to be free, what we get to examine what it really means to be independent, and what is the principle of independence. You belong to a spiritual community that is committed to the awakening of the planet, is committed to the individual spiritual evolution of the soul. And that evolution takes place through a process. And that process begins with the spark of inspiration, but it continues through the maturation of that inspiration. And it's that maturation process that is so critical to our development at this time. The founder of religious science and the author of The Science Mind, Ernest Holmes, on July 4th in the year 1937, gave a talk in the Wiltern Theater in Los Angeles, in which he said this: ever since the dawn of civilization, ever since first humans began to grasp the significance that they were individual beings in a universe that seemed to be more or less hostile to them, the entire search of the human mind, its whole endeavor, has been to get free from evil, free from bondage, and from the shackles of lack and want and fear, superstition, uncertainty, pain, disease, poverty, and fear of the hereafter. And because of this, human systems exist. Organized philosophies sprung up, science developed, educational systems have been conducted, and collective security is sought after. And religions are formulated to allay the fear of humankind relative to the soul. The great demand of the world today, he continues to say, is for a sense of security, freedom, and liberty. But we must be very certain that we do not swap one image of bondage for another. I have read a large part of the religious and philosophic histories of the world and have noticed that almost invariably, when the world traded one kind of religion for another, it did not get a good deal. The Pilgrim Fathers who came to the shores of New England came to worship God in their own way, but the moment they got here, everybody in the colony worshiped God in the way that the strong-minded member of the colony decided was the way to worship God. That's not freedom. Even in our newer religions of the last 75 or 100 years, he says, very frequently we meet people who say that they have found the truth. And then, unfortunately, a large majority of them disclose that they have merely found an idea that they liked and called it the truth because they were egotistical, self-centered, self-righteous people with an attitude of condemnation towards others. That is not the truth. And so when we think of freedom, you can see how we very often think of it and associate it with this idea of independence. And there's a part of that that's actually very natural, right? There's a desire of the soul to be liberated, to be emancipated, to be free, right? The bird wants to leave the nest, and the child wants to grow up and come into their own. The person wants to be able to think for themselves and do for themselves. So there's a process that's part of our natural development as human beings to break free, right? And to claim independence. But I'm not convinced that the association of freedom and independence I'm not wholly convinced, WHOLLY, convinced that it is wholly accurate, HOLLY, right? Frederick Douglass in 1852, as a free slave, was invited to speak in Rochester, New York, to a women's movement, suffrage abolitionist movement on the 4th of July. And in that speech, he gave a great critique about what the Declaration of Independence and what freedom meant. And much of his critique still stands today. You've probably seen it or heard it shared on social media. There's a great oration of it from James Earl Jones that you can find, that Democracy Now! Has. My dear friend Bishop William Barber has recently put out a video of it. And there are, of course, many, many others. I want to read just a few excerpts from it because I want to, again, to presence for you how appropriate the critique still is. He says, in part, whether we turn to the declarations of the past or to the professions of the present, the conduct of this nation seem equally hideous and revolting. America is false to its past, false to the present, and solemnly blinds herself to be false to the future. Standing with God and the crushed and bleeding slave on this occasion, I will, in the name of humanity which is outraged, in the name of liberty which is fettered, in the name of the Constitution and the Bible which are disgraced and trampled upon, dare call into question and denounce with an emphasis I can command everything that serves to perpetuate slavery, the great sin and shame of America. And it occurs to me as I read that passage last night that if we had just changed the word slavery to white supremacy or racism or discrimination, or you choose a word that is befitting of what's happening today, you would find that the passage holds very true. You see, we are feeling the heavy reality of what has yet to manifest. But I want you to hold on to that. Remember, I said that I believe our capacity to rise strong is dependent upon our willingness to be with what is heavy. So it's okay if you're feeling that right now. That's part of the point, right? Because both then and now, our understanding of independence and freedom lacks a spiritual maturity. It's not enough to just have a spiritual insight. That insight has to mature and develop in order to be fully embodied and actualized and realized. Frederick Douglass tells us what we need to do in going forward. He says, for it is not light that is needed, but fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled, and the hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced. I believe we're in a time in which those feelings have been quickened since the death of George Floyd. The conscience of the nation has been roused, the propriety of our collective self has been startled, and the hypocrisy of our nation has been exposed. My talk this morning at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta was about this notion of freedom ringing, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last, as proclaimed by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his famous I Have a Dream speech. But what does it mean to let freedom ring? See, he says, we can say free at last, thank God Almighty, we're free at last when we let freedom ring, when we let freedom ring. It suggests that freedom simply is, that freedom is a natural state of our spiritual being. Ernest Holmes, or I believe it's Joel Goldsmith actually, that says freedom is not a condition of the government, but a condition of the soul, right? The condition of the soul. It's a natural state of our being. Just as I said earlier, the bird seeks to be free. The child seeks to grow up and be free. There's something about freedom that rises up in our soul. There's something in us, despite any shackles of limitation that we've experienced, either in our mind or in the conditions of our affairs, that there's something in us that knows what that freedom is and longs for it. And Dr. King suggests that what we need to do is let it ring. Let it ring. There's an allowing of the freedom to have its way with us, which means to get out of the way, all of our struggles and consternations that stand in the way of a natural state of freedom. And what are those things? Why would we be standing in the way of our own freedom? How could that possibly be? Yet we know the history of our country and where we stand right now, and that freedom has not been experienced by all and is not being experienced by all. So surely demonstration is the only authority, our teaching would tell us. We have stood in the way somehow of the prayer and affirmation. You see, again, I want to come back to this notion that all processes of spiritual evolution require maturation if we are to lean into the embodiment of them. What that means is that inspiration is not enough. I want you to take that in, because I know this is a place you get inspiration. I know it's a place you feel good, but you'll notice that inspiration is not enough. If you really want to step into your prosperity, if you really want to step into your health and well-being, if you really want to step into a successful relationship, or whatever it is that you're trying to manifest, the good in your life, inspiration about it is not enough. It's the starting point, but it's not enough. That inspiration has to mature into a deep embodiment that changes the constitution of your mindset. It changes your body. It changes your ways of thinking and being and believing and behaving in the world when it matures. But if all you do is proclaim it and don't allow it to radically alter the whole structure of your being, I'm talking about when you announce a spiritual truth. If you just announce a spiritual truth, and you don't allow it to infiltrate your entire soul, then you're just a clanging bell, right? And there's a lack of integration, there's a lack of wholeness, there's a lack of integrity within the affirmations of your heart and the activity of your being. You're following what I'm saying? So when we fail to understand the nature of the principle, when we fail to understand what the principle brings to us, teaches us, how it matures in us, then we are doomed to create bondage for others. You see, if all we do is proclaim our freedom, if all we do is proclaim our independence, but we don't understand what it really means to step into those things, then all we do is have the opportunity to create bondage for others. Let me explain what I mean by that. Claiming your independence does not make you free. Claiming independence makes you responsible. Claiming independence makes you responsible. Why? Because you're announcing a truth of your being, right? I am free, I'm whole and complete. I'm wealthy, I'm prosperous, I'm healthy, whatever it is, right? Those are all claims of that independent freedom. When Moses is on the mountaintop speaking to God and says, who should I say sent me? And God says, tell him I am sent you. God is saying, tell him, claim your independence, claim your spiritual birthright, claim the spiritual identity within you that cannot be held back. Tell Pharaoh, the oppressor, right? Tell Pharaoh, the captive, or the captivator, right? The oppressor in the situation, tell him that you can't be held captive because you know your spiritual identity. Your spiritual identity is the I am. But it's a universal identity. The I am that is in you belongs to everyone. And so the moment you go tell that to Pharaoh, you become responsible for the liberation of everyone. You see. So you got to go to Pharaoh and say, let my people go, not just let me go, let my people go, because I have come to know a spiritual truth about myself that is a universal truth about all of humanity. That's why what you do as Unity of Bellevue is so important as personal spiritual work. Why? Because the liberation of the planet cannot happen through souls who have not been liberated. Souls who have not been liberated cannot produce freedom for others. They can only create more bondage. And that's why, through all of our consternation, through all of our struggle and strife, through all of our seeking of policy and change in this country, we have not created more freedom. We have on paper created some rights and some things here and there, but we have not changed the heart and soul of the nation to a degree that liberation and freedom has been felt and experienced by everyone. Why? Because those enacting it haven't been free themselves. And so what we're seeing is the manifestation of the struggle and pain of humanity when it fails to understand the lesson, when it tries to claim independence and says, I'm free, and then tries to wrap it in the flag and in the Bible and says, I'm free and don't tread on my independence. Don't ask me to do something for the greater good of you. Don't ask me to wear a mask. Don't ask me to do this. Don't tread on my sense of independence. I'm a free agent. And we have this thing called patriotism gone bad. It's something that's been in the refrigerator for too long. It's spoiled. Open it up and smell it. It just doesn't smell right. But we call it, the label on the bottle is patriotism, but open it up and it just smells off to me, right? Why? Because I'm claiming my independence, and don't tell me that's not claiming independence. That's claiming separation. That's claiming individuality. That's claiming your separation from the greater good. Independence doesn't make you free. It makes you responsible to the collective, because the principle that made you free is a principle that belongs to everyone, or else you wouldn't be able to have it yourself, you see. Freedom is a relationship between the object of creation and the principle intelligence that created it. Let me say that again. Freedom is a relationship between the object of creation and the principal intelligence that created it. When we understand that relationship, then we step into a state of liberation. And so, yes, the path of liberation begins with ourself, because it is only liberated souls that can free others. And so this is where we see the suffering of humanity today, because it's coming out of, we're seeing the expressed bondage and oppression that's created from souls who themselves are not free. And so what do we do? How do we rise strong? I believe, again, that our capacity to rise strong is dependent on our ability to sit with the heavy. You know, it's July 4th weekend. In a little while, I'll take my 3-year-old son up to the neighborhood pool and seek either today or later this week and try to teach him to float. That's my goal this summer. Teach him to float on his back. And there's a great struggle when you're learning how to float. It's just a great, you're just, I just can't. There's just a tremendous fight between your independence and this thing called the law of buoyancy. And it doesn't make any sense to your mind. The water comes up to your ears and you feel it and you just can't, right? But we need to learn to trust what is heavy and present in our midst. Let me say it to you this way. There's a great poem, and my son just walked in the room. There's a great poem called Reiki's Book of Hours, Love Poems to God. Love Poems to God, that says this: how surely gravity's law, how surely gravity's law, strong as an ocean current, strong as an ocean current, takes hold of everything, the strongest thing, and pulls it towards the heart of the world. How surely gravity's law, strong as an ocean current, takes hold of even the strongest thing and pulls it towards the heart of the world. Everything, each stone, each blossom, each child is held in place. Only we in our arrogance push out beyond what we belong to for some empty freedom. Only we push out beyond what we belong to for some empty freedom. If we surrendered to Earth's intelligence, we would rise up rooted like trees. Instead, we entangle ourselves in knots of our own making and struggle, lonely and confused. And so, like children, we must begin again to learn from things. To learn from things. And so, like children, we must begin again to learn from things because they are in God's heart. They have never left. And this is what they teach us: to fall, patiently trusting our heaviness. Even a bird has to do that before it can fly. And so we must learn to trust our heaviness, to trust what is heavy and present among people of color in our communities, our collective nation when it comes to the conversation of race consciousness and our struggles to create a more just and equitable world. We must trust that it is our job to lean into each other at this time, to not pull away in our claims of independence and separation, but actually lean in and discover our interdependency. The law of buoyancy will lift us up, and it will say, as we lean to trust and fall back, it will say, I've got you. I've got you. So I invite you as a spiritual community to trust that law of buoyancy as you move forward in this season. Trust the spiritual principles that are brought to you by Reverend Marla and your community and all that is before you. It is my great joy to be with you this morning. Thank you so much for having me. Let's just take a moment for prayer. Mother, Father God, in this moment, I simply affirm and acknowledge what has happened here today and what continues to happen through this great spiritual center, this place we call Unity of Bellevue, the music, the message, the insight, the prayers, the chaplaincy that takes place, the ministry from heart to heart and mind to mind, that this is a place, a point of light in the mind of God that is creating and contributing to the buoyancy of spirit that is lifting up the human heart in this hour and in this time. That this is a community that is leaning into the divine idea that we rise strong only together, not individually and separately, but only together. And so I affirm and declare that what is continuing to be learned and leaned into here is that of love and justice and peace and the great oneness of the human family. And that through this, change and transformation takes place for the greater good of all. For this and so much more, I say thank you, God. And so it is. Thank you all. Peace and blessings.
Well, one of my very favorite moments ever performing, ever, in 23 or 24 years was the time when I was at David's Church in Portland area, and at some point, for some reason, a group of kids rushed the stage and basically took it over. And I went ahead and performed the song, but I was clear that it was a little bit like the Beatles performing at like Shea Stadium or something, where I might be singing, but nobody was paying any attention to me because the kids on the stage were so cute and so distracting that they were entirely the focus. And David, I know that what you just said was beautiful and wise and poetic and evocative, but frankly, the last 3 or 4 minutes, you probably could have been reading the phone book, and we were looking at your beautiful baby, and my God, is he a beautiful baby. And I remember when he was born, and yes, I'm talking about you, and it is just a joy to see your face. My goodness. I'm supposed to look at the camera, but I want to look at your face. I have mixed feelings about looking at the camera. Anyway, so it's good to see you, David, and thank you for that. You know what? This song is a combination of various things you've said today, and the title "Truth or Dare." Well, I dared myself just a tiny bit when I wrote this song, and it is in a very real sense, this song is a mission statement for me about the good that I can do with my own music. And it's unlike any song I've ever written before, and was a real kick to write, a real kick to record, and a bear to learn to perform. And so I want to share this song with you, one more song for you today. It is, along with the song Kind Child, which it looks like David himself could have written, one of my newest songs from an album that was new in Thanksgiving, and then in March suddenly became a much quieter tour to release the new music. Anyway, so this is the title song off of that little mini album I released, feels like about 20 years ago. And I have been very busy the last 3 months doing what I can with my songs. Marla, as you said it, to make the world a better place with my music. But only after 20 plus years of doing this for a living have I really gotten a little bit of clarity about why I do what I do, how I do it, and where it all comes from. This song makes a couple of references to that. And then the real breakthrough for this song for me is having some understanding of the perspective of where my music belongs and sits. Because although I've been making music for a long time and in Southern California for a long time, it's never really been a music industry career. It's been something else. And so I hope you enjoy this new song. And thank you for having me. And David, it was really a pleasure to see you. And I'm sorry to say, even more of a pleasure to see your son. All right, here we go. And I have to perform this song to a track. It's the only song I've ever performed to a track in my entire professional life. And you'll understand why in about 5 seconds. Well, or in a couple minutes anyway. Here we go. All right. I could sing about mistakes I've made, broken hearts and broken wings. I could sing about my aches and pains and the one that got away. But it seems to me the world has its hurts to spare. Shadows are everywhere. I decided I've cried enough. There's plenty of songs about tough luck. I'm gonna sing about love. Gonna sing about love and lift somebody up instead of talking about tough luck. I can't deny I still dream about the glory, the Grammy, the gold. I cannot lie. I still wish sometimes my eyes and my heart would close. But it seems to me my family escaped the war and they never sang anymore. They lost everything they had. And if a song is all I can give back, I'm gonna sing about love. I'm gonna sing about love and lift somebody up. I'm gonna sing about love instead of talking about tough luck. Whoa, no more tough luck. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. Gonna take my cue from a few folks I look up to. I'm gonna sing about love. Stevie Wonder sings in the key of life. Bobby McFerrin says, be happy, it'll be all right. Marvin Gaye showed the way, what's going on. It's a wonderful world, thanks to Louis Armstrong. Soul Asylum saved those runaway kids. John Lennon, just imagine in the whole world. John Denver took a skyway, Tina Turner to the sea. Stevie Wonder to a higher left, John Legend and Common to freedom. Pete Seeger's gonna overcome. Bob Marley just smiled at the rising sun. Eminem will lose himself before the moment's gone. Miss Jackson knows the knowledge is what we want. Gloria Gaynor maintained that we're gonna survive. Tim McGraw wants to live like we are dying. Aretha got R-E-S-P-E-C-T, Bette Midler from a distance, the whole world we see. Tom Petty, Free Falls, Leanne Hope, Sweet Dance, Josh Groban, Raise the Stuff. If we're hurting, R.E.M. understands. Irving B, Bless the USA. Van Morrison ushered in a brand new day. Whitney sang about the greatest love of all. Johnny Nash can see clearly now the rain won't fall. Pink knows we're beautiful. Christina does too. Rihanna sees her shining like a diamond. We keep walking like the Foo Fighters. Fight the power, public enemy said. Miley is a climber. Andy Grammer keeps his head up. Bill Withers, we can lean on him. Natasha's unwritten. Taylor Swift shakes it off again. Lady Gaga was born this way. Jason Mraz, truly glad to be our friend today. The Black Eyed Peas wonder where is the love. Desiree got to be. Journey never stop believing in us. Simon over troubled water made a bridge. Elton John lit a candle for Diana. He did. It's the same love. Macklemore was moved to pray. Izzy made a rainbow with an ukulele. James Brown, loud and proud. Bruce Hornsby laid it out the way it is. Queen made us into champions. U2 and Dr. King and the power of one. Sam Cooke made you look. Changes gone up. Peter Gabriel ain't giving up on us just yet. We are the world. Save lives. No star they couldn't get. Irene Cara, what a feeling alive. Pharrell made us happy. Katy Perry lit a firework in the sky. Carole King, we've got a friend. Switchfoot dared us all to move again. Paul McCartney's words of wisdom were to let it be. And the weight of the world was taken off by Aloe Black and Avicii. So what do? I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna sing about love. Sing about love. And lift somebody up. Instead of talking about tough luck. I'm gonna sing about love. Go. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Someone, please help me find a way to follow these two powerhouses. Holy cow, what did I do stepping up today? My goodness. I want to share a quick insight I had even this morning when I was meditating on what I was going to say today. You know, we share our abundance with mortgage and groceries and car insurance and et cetera, et cetera. And those things are all spiritual in themselves, but they are all designed to support our physical experience, and that we are spirits, a spirit enjoying a physical presence. It is with the abundance that we share with Reverend Marla and this kind of experience we're having today, and to support the physical unity of Bellevue property. It's the only place in our lives where it is a truly spiritual endeavor. And so I just realized that today, and I think that's possibly why Tony and I just did not hesitate to jump in both feet to support this experience. And boy, I'll tell you, like today, what I have gained from this, I'm reaffirmed with my commitment to do this. So, oh, I am so humbled, and tears have flowed. Thank you, David, and for the music as well, Daniel. So if you would please share with me together the affirmation, offering affirmation, and it goes: divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and so it is.
And so we give thanks for the power of this music, this message, the power of spiritual community to come together in a consciousness of love and a consciousness of transformation, willing and open hearts, willing to ring the bell of freedom for ourselves and for others. And I give thanks for these sacred and holy gifts, and I consecrate them to the good use of this center. I know that we are transforming this money into transformed lives, and I am so very grateful for the gift and for the giver and for the transformation, and so it is. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Monica McDowell Elvig. I'm your center administrator. If you are visiting with us for the first time, we extend a warm welcome to you across the virtual ethers. We would love to rise strong together with you. And so we welcome you into our online community at this time. reach out to us via email or a phone call. The best way to stay up to date with everything that's going on, all of our events, our online events, is to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. You can do that via our website. It's at unityofbellevue.org. And on the bottom of every website page is a sign-up form for that weekly e-newsletter. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to stay in touch. So thank you for joining with us today. I have lots of online offerings to announce to you. First of all, every Wednesday at 1 p.m., we have a Wednesday Community Connect when we check in with Reverend Marla and each other. We invite you to join us. You can find the Zoom link for that on our website, unityofbellevue.org/launch. That's a great time, and we hope to see you there. We have some classes, online classes. East Meets West is going on Wednesday evenings. This is your last opportunity to get in on that class. You can register via our website under events and classes and workshops, or through the link on the weekly e-newsletter. We also have a Free for Life EFT tapping workshop next Tuesday that I'm going to be leading. That's for helping to alleviate anxiety and stress and triggers. So again, you can register through the website for that. And then we're doing breathwork practice groups through the summer once a month. Our next one is on Tuesday, July 21st. I'd love to have you join us for that. We are also putting together a cookbook, a Divine Dining cookbook, to continue our Divine Dining experience virtually. What we need is your recipes right now, your favorite family recipes, and you can submit those recipes through our website. If you go to events and you click on Divine Dining Cookbook, submit your recipes. You've got until 2 more weeks to do that, through July 19th. So look up some of those favorite recipes. You can submit up to 6, and just submit 1 recipe per form. Thank you. Sisters in Spirit is this Monday night at 6:30 on Zoom. You'll find the Zoom link on our website. If you are a woman or woman identified, you are welcome. And Sabrina has an announcement.
Good morning, beloved Unity community. I am Sabrina, the Youth and Family Program Director, and I'm happy to be with you today. I have an announcement about a change for our Unity Kids online experience. During the last 3 months, I have offered live interactive classes for your children. I was approached by some parents and recognized myself that most children are very shy when it comes to interacting live while being recorded. To make our lesson available to every child and make them feel comfortable, we decided to continue the Unity online experience with recorded lessons to view at your convenience. So basically anytime, not only Sundays. I hope to reach more children this way and to avoid possible technical issues. So hop over after the celebration service and enjoy our experiment, Walking Water, a story about how to deal with the restriction that we can't meet at the moment, shown in a cute story, and the opportunity to receive a postcard from me. Because we are still connected, right? Just a little different. And this is also for adults, so I invite adults as well. Those lessons will be posted every Sunday at 10 a.m. and then you can watch them whenever you want. If you have trouble finding it, please stay for our Q&A today after celebration service, and I'd be happy to help you with it. I hope your children will enjoy the lesson. Thank you and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Sabrina. So following service, we will have a Q&A session, and that will be immediately following our service. We will also be having a prayer circle, a virtual prayer circle again. It went really well last week, so we're going to have that again, and the prayer chaplains will be leading that. If you have any prayer requests in the meantime, you can email them to our prayer chaplains at prayerchaplains@unityofbellevue.org. There's also a prayer request form on our website on the prayer page that you can fill out and send to them. If you would like any of them to call you, to pray with you, or just to talk with them, please mention that in the message, and one of them will be happy to do so. So if you would like to join the prayer circle again today, or if you're new to it, please raise your hands virtually. You do that by going to the prayer participants window, and when you hover over your name, you'll get the option to raise your hand. Keep that up. Keep those hands raised. It takes us a little bit of time to put all those names into the breakout room. So just if you would like to join the prayer circle after service, raise your hand. Thank you. We have our book of the month, Rising Strong with Brene Brown. If you would like to purchase that through our bookstore and help support our center, you can do that on our website under events, book of the month. For $20, I will ship that to you. We have a few copies and we'd love to share those with you. I think that's everything. Reverend Marla.
All right. Hey, everybody. Right now, I see only one hand raised for the prayer room. If you would like to join the prayer circle, I'm guessing there's got to be more folks because last week we had like 12. So I'm guessing that there's got to be some more folks. So please get your hand up and we will make sure you get added to that breakout room with Lynn and Jan, who are going to pray for you. And we'll make sure that happens. Oh, here come a couple more. Okay, perfect. Hey, join me for the Q&A right after the service. It's first Sunday of the month, so it's your opportunity for first Sunday Q&A. This is just your chance to ask any questions you have about our center, the business of our center, about the teachings that we had today, about the principles that we teach in general, anything you want to know about Unity or about me, please join me right after the service. Just stay online. If you are going to the prayer circle breakout, when that breakout closes, you'll just be routed right back here. So you can join the Q&A a little bit late if you want to go get some prayer support. All right, everybody, please join me in the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thanks, everybody. We love you lots. I'll see you at the Q&A in a moment, or I'll see you next Sunday. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.